He will be a Nazarite of God, this young man. Regarding Shmuel, it doesn't say all of this. It doesn't talk about hairs per se. It doesn't talk about his wine, but it says Mora lo yale al rosho. He's going to be given to the temple. He's going to live in the holy sanctuary, the Mishkan, with Eli the high priest. But what does it mean Mora lo yale al rosho? Does it mean, as it did in Samson, that nothing could cut his hair? That somehow Samuel, the prophet Shmuel, was a man with this long, wild hair? Is that how we should picture him? Is that true? Or not? Does it mean something else? Does it mean simply there will never be fear on his head? He will be fearful of no one. He will be a judge who will be able to look you in the eye and say, you're guilty. He'll be able to say, as we say today, talk truth to power. Which one is it? The Rambam in the laws of Nizirut, the Rambam there says that it's very different. Shimshon is not the same as Shmuel. Shimshon lo haya nazir gamur. Samson wasn't really a Nazarite. After all, you think he's a Nazarite and he goes around killing people? A Nazarite's not supposed to come in contact with the impure. So why is he in touch with all the dead? Why is he such a warrior? Because he's not a real Nazarite. It's a little bit different. And also, it was an angel who made the vow. It wasn't a human being. So he's different. However, Shmuel, Nazir Olam Haya, he was a true Nazarite for his entire life. It's the opposite of what you would have thought from the verses. Samson, whose laws seem very similar to our Parsha, not a true Nazarite. A little different. But Shmuel's a Nazir Olam. He was a Nazir for his entire life. Yes, he did have very, very long hair. This goes back to the earlier Mishnah. The Mishnah at the beginning of Masechet Nazir speaks of Nazirut Shimshon being a little different, Samson being a bit different. And as far as Shmuel, there's a debate. Some take it to mean that he was a Nazarite, because the same expression of Morah, this razor, is used in both cases. However, others say Morah. Rabbi Norai says no. Rabbi Yossi says that the Morah means fear, that he will never be in fear of another individual. But actually, in many ways, they both have the same approach. That Morah, if Shmuel is to be someone who should not be in fear of anyone else, he should be above all else. In that sense, similar to a Nazarite. Or is he actually a Nazarite, different from everyone else? It's interesting to compare and contrast Samuel and Samson, Shmuel and Shimshon. Both are different from everyone else. Leaders in their people and among their people. They have the Spirit of God. However, extremely different individuals. Shmuel is different from all others because you know where he is? He's not out playing with his friends. He's not out with his mother and his father and his brothers. You know where he is? He's in the Mikdash. He's in the holy sanctuary. He's in the Mishkan, Shiloh, in Shiloh. He's there with the prophet Eli, the Navi, the Kohen Gadol Eli. He is set aside and above all else. He's in the holiest place. Shimshon is also set apart, but he's not in any holy sanctuary. You know where he is? His eyes went after the Philistine women, and there he was, married to a Philistine woman, and later on, cohabiting with a Zonah, and then another woman whom he's like Delilah, the famous Delilah or Delilah. These are the people that Shimshon is with. Shimshon is with the enemy. He's separated from the people, oh yes, because he's out there with the enemy in enemy territory. Very strange, very unique individual in all of Tanakh. Shmuel, it says, V'savav Beitel u'v'hagilgal v'mitzpah. Shmuel was all around. He didn't stay home all day. He got around when he became the prophet. when he became the leader, when he became the judge, the shofet. He went to Beit El, he went to Gilgal, he went to Mitzpah, he went back home to Ramah. Kisham Beito, that's his home. He was a man who was out and about. He was among his people. Shimshon also covered some geographical territory. But Shimshon, instead of being among his people, he was expunged by his people, cast out. As in our parsha, a Nazirite cast out from his people. So the people said, look, Shimshon, we love you. We love how you kill all these Philistines. The enemy, they are oppressors, but they're going to get us back, and they're coming to get you, and they're going to kill us all. So please. So he said, don't worry, hand me over, tie me up, hand me over, it's no problem. And he submits himself to be cast out of the community and sent to the Philistines. Shimshon is not of the people. He is cast out by the people. Both Shmuel and Shimshon, outsiders of sorts, leaders among their people. One cast out by the people, another going around and around among the Jewish community. Shimshon is an incredibly tragic figure. Man who, for some mysterious reason, he was drawn to the Philistine woman and other women just in order to make a to'anah, to find some excuse to kill more and more Philistines. Because that was his role, to begin Yachel Oshiat Yisrael, to begin to save the Jewish people. It was no great salvation. That's not our model. We don't model ourselves after Shimshon. We're not interested in killing a few Philistines for just because they're there. But this was the beginning of the salvation of Israel. Shmuel, a much different figure. Shmuel, a more ideal figure. It's also the beginning of the redemption of Israel. It's the beginning of the kingship of Israel. And Shmuel hardly ever kills anyone. Shmuel just brings a miracle, and there are voices, and the enemy runs away. Except for that time when he killed Agag with his own sword. Shmuel is a man who stays away from impurity, away from death. Very different figures. Shimshon had to not only go to the enemy, but he had to be married to the enemy. He was in bed with the enemy. He had this intimacy with the enemy. He was almost one of them. He dies with the enemy. He prays to die with the enemy. Tamot nafshi im plishtim. He wants to die with the enemy. Because the only way that Shimshon can save the Jewish people is to be that Nazirite figure who's, yes, above the people, but also away from the people, separate from the people. Yes, in the end, he's buried back in his home territory with his family. But he dies among the enemy. He lives among the enemy. He leaves his parents. He disappoints his father and his mother and marries that Philistine woman. This is the tragic figure of Shimshon. Two Nazirites of sorts, Shmuel and Shimshon, both above their people, both living lives separate from their people. Samuel lives his life in that sanctuary, only seeing his mother occasionally when she comes to visit and bring him clothes. Samson also living away from his parents, away from the whole Jewish community, but a very strange and a very unusual existence. Now we can go back and ask the question, what about the Birkat Kohanim? What about that fifth section? What was that doing there? I could understand sending out the impure. I could understand making those who need to make restitution do so. Those who need to do tshuva and repent and confess to do so. Those who need to bring shalom, to bring a little peace in their family. We could understand that we need to bring more peace in the camp. Send out that the Nazirite is either above the camp or he needs to be atoned for trying to be above the camp when he shouldn't have. But what's the Birkat Kohanim? What's the blessing of the priest doing in the middle of all this? But what's the final blessing of the priest? Is Yasem L'cha Shalom, to bring peace. Where the Kohanim, those who are, yes, lifted above the others, turn panim el panim, as the Gemara in Sota says, face to face with the Israelites. And they bless them. We don't turn away from the Kohen. When the Kohen blesses you, yes, you don't look at him. Your eyes are closed. Your head is down. But you're panim el panim. You are panim keneged panim, face to face with the Kohanim. The Kohanim are above you, but they bless you. There's peace. They bring peace and harmony in the camp. And who are the Kohanim? They are muram me'am. They are lifted above the Jewish people. Because only from the outside can they see how beautiful we are.